Hey, welcome back, everyone. Well, we are still waiting. I think Trump, the news is he's going to be probably brought to New York tomorrow, although he has announced he's going to be holding a press event at Mar-a-Lago at his home in Florida tomorrow evening. So we will see when that happens. One of the big stories right now, though, is how this will affect Trump's campaign and his own lawyers and the other side now. They're suggesting that the judge may put a gag order on Trump. And that would be a very big deal, given that Trump is, well, the leading candidate for president. He's even polling better than Biden, I should note. On the Republican side, actually, this is benefiting him. He's overtaken DeSantis by a very large margin. Of course, depending on which polls you go by, but even a lot of the leftist ones are saying this. If they were to put a gag order on him, this would prevent him from campaigning. Now, we would see, of course, how long this lasts for. We couldn't expect this lasting more than a few weeks, but interfering with a political campaign like this would, in some ways, well, to a large extent, justify what Trump has been saying, that this is a new form of political persecution and interference in the elections. And I'll go deeper into this first. I'll go deeper into this, folks. There's a lot to talk about with this. I want to detail what's going on with it, what this means for America, what may or may not happen. A lot of it, of course, is just analysis at this point because we're waiting for answers, but I will detail what we know so far. Also, folks, Trump's team has set the terms for his arrest, and they say no handcuffs. He's going to have no plea deal. He's not going to agree to anything. It looks like Trump is probably going to hold his ground on all this, and we will see. At the same time, though, what's happening to Trump is not only raising concerns around, well, outright political persecution, to the extent that many people who don't like Trump one bit are actually defending him and saying this is not only damaging to our election system, but to the image of the United States as a whole. You even have folks like A.G. Barr, former attorney general, coming out and saying this is bad for America. You had a New York Times headline, New York Times saying that even if Trump is innocent, essentially, that it's good he's arrested and good he's standing trial. Like, this is the logic that they're going through. And that logic that innocent or not, it's good he's arrested, innocent or not, hey, great. And people warning who are still, I think, rational and not purely partisan, even on the left, people are saying this is actually really damaging to the country, this type of thinking. You're really seeing this boil to the surface now. And in some maybe twisted way, this is, I mean, honestly going to help Trump, I think, but because it's justifying, it's validating what he's been warning about. It's showing in clear terms exactly what he's been saying is happening. A message which I think a lot of people would have found very hard to digest were it not for this. We'll go deep into this today, folks. So that said, those of you Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, we will jump over exclusively to Epoch TV after about 25 minutes, so stick around for that. Let's talk about the first story, though, the gag order against Trump. I want to emphasize this has not yet happened. This is purely based on analysis currently. But you do have Trump's team concerned they may do this. You have people on the left saying they're probably going to do it. And it's going to come down to the judge in the case, a judge who Trump at least accuses of being deeply politically motivated because he went after one of Trump's associates previous to this. Business Insider says this. It says a gag order for Donald Trump is extremely likely once he's before a judge, legal experts say. Keep in mind this is technically a left-wing media, right? It says former President Donald Trump can't seem to stop talking about his indictment. But once he's arraigned, it's extremely likely that he'll have to, a former senior staffer with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office told Insider. His freedom to rant on Truth Social and say what he wants about his case at rallies will likely change once he surrenders and appears in a Manhattan courthouse, according to Duncan Levine, who is also a former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice. Manhattan's acting Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan, who is expected to arraign Trump on Tuesday, is likely to put conditions on his release. And that's most likely when this judge will issue a gag order restricting Trump from discussing the case, Levin said. Keep in mind that Justice Merchan is the one that Trump accuses of being politically motivated. Trump has been calling out the judge directly, which, normally a judge would be very unhappy if you did that. If you ever face trial, you probably don't want to criticize the judge. I'm just saying, Trump's not that kind of guy. He has no issue, it seems, criticizing the judge, going after the judge, and the judge has the power to basically slap a gag on his mouth, is what it looks like. That being said, though, of course, this is also what you would expect. I mean, from Trump's standpoint, he is being targeted for arrest in a crime that's pretty much, there's no precedent with any of this. They're putting together new forms of crimes to go after Trump, elevating a misdemeanor to a felony, ignoring statutes of limitations, bypassing basic laws around even the difference between federal and state law, which again, there's some real legal complications in terms of how A.G. Bragg even did this. The fact A.G. Bragg has a track record of doing the opposite, of actually lowering charges, unless, of course, you're defending yourself. There was a man, for example, who defended himself after being shot and killed the individual who shot him after a scuffle and is now facing charges. Things like this have happened a few times in New York. Meanwhile, you have rapists going free on the streets. You have drug dealers, people committing assault, and so on going free on the streets. And so D.A. Bragg's track record is basically that he punishes good people and he lets, frankly, evil people run free. This is the track record he has. And so given this, do you just remain silent? This is, I think, the issue Trump is facing. Do you just go quietly into the night, so to speak? Do you allow them to interfere with your political campaign? Do you allow them to interfere in the basic practice of legal protections? Do you allow them to? Would you let a DA, a random DA, interfere with the elections? Is what it's being brought up to. And so Trump, facing this situation, of course, from his side, is looking at this and saying, I cannot be quiet. He's going to be calling them out every single step of the way. And we'll see what that means, of course, when it comes time to face the judge, and if the judge decides to slap him with a gag order. It says here that if Trump violates it by speaking about the litigation outside the courtroom, he could face consequences, punishment for criminal contempt, which was what you would be charged with if you were to do that. Under New York law, is a fine not exceeding $1,000, which for Trump is nothing, or jail for up to 30 days, or both. Briefly on this, Trump. Now, do you think Trump would continue speaking if just meant getting fined $1,000? I think Trump would pay $1,000 a minute if he had to make a statement like this. $1,000 fine is not going to shut him up. $1,000 fine would not shut many people up. I think a lot of people, if they believed the case was serious enough, would take $1,000 slap on the face and continue speaking their mind. The 30 days in jail is a different story, of course, but at the same time, 30 days in jail could benefit Trump, and it would probably look really bad on the judge and on New York City law and on the Democrats as a whole. It would ironically probably benefit Trump, and you also deal with the issue that Trump, under protections of the president, has Secret Service protection, and so jailing him would be difficult, if not impossible, and they would have to really do a lot of they'd have to jump through a lot of legal hoops to imprison Trump, and would they want to blow that, round, so to speak? Would they want to waste that shot, so to speak, just to hit him with contempt? I don't think they would, personally. I don't think they would have to. I don't think they would want to overturn basically, the precedent, the federal law that a president has to have protection from the Secret Service in order to put him in prison for $1,000 fine. Meaning, I think Trump has the upper hand here, even though they're talking about their ability to do it, I think he can violate it and probably just get $1,000 fine, and it won't mean anything. Although you're going to be hearing a lot of chatter about it. That's my personal take on that, at least. Here's a quote though from Levin, talking to Business Insider. He says, "I think it's not only possible, but it's extremely likely there will be a gag order in the case." And Levin said that he's known for representing clients including Harvey Weinstein and Anna Sorokin. He said gag orders are very common in criminal cases, particularly in cases where there is an enormous amount of pretrial publicity like this one. Further, and he states, if there is a gag order, Levine said, Trump will be very limited in what he's able to say, even if there may be proxies who speak for him. The court has the ability to set rules for his conduct while he's most likely to be out on bail, pending proceedings. And he said, quote, "This is a criminal case now, so the rules have changed, and the rules are no longer in his purview to make. He is a criminal defendant, and we see hundreds of thousands of criminal defendants across the country every day who have a lot of rights stripped away from them, and he is now one of them. These proceedings are going to change his life." Now, let's talk about Trump's nature on this. There was a meme going around for a while, and I know that now in New York you can actually be imprisoned for spreading memes. I'll go into this later. One of the individuals who criticized Hillary Clinton, the 2016 political campaigns, who made a meme about Hillary Clinton, has actually been found guilty of criminal charges for interfering in elections in New York. And so if you want to know what you can be charged with in New York, well, rape is apparently something you get let free on. Assault, battery, robbery, people get set free on. But spreading memes will get you charged in New York. But regardless of this, I'll talk about a meme. There was a meme going around for a while of, it's Trump, and he's sitting in an interview with one of these leftist journalists. The individual hands him Trump hands him a paper, and it shows the paper, and it's a tic-tac-toe grid, right? And Trump, in the meme, had drawn an additional row and put a little circle there and drew a line, and he won. And, of course, that was the joke, that Trump basically creates new rules and then beats them at the game they think they're playing. And this is often how he does things, I mean, jokes aside. And you can agree with it or disagree with it, but this is just how Trump operates. They'll often present him with options 1 or 2. They say pick 1 or pick 2. Choose which way you want to go, and Trump will come out and say 3. And he'll come out with something they didn't anticipate. He'll take the kind of the window of the discussion. Oh, there's the meme right there. They found the meme. See, that this is how Trump wins. Oftentimes, it's in ways that some people might disagree with. It's a joke, but it's an accurate joke. He basically does things outside the boundaries that they've established. The question they're presenting with him in this is, okay, Trump, you're going to be hit with a gag order probably. Do you remain silent and agree and follow the rules and live by our rules and stay within our little boundaries? No talking about this, no benefiting from it politically. This is a criminal case. You can't talk about it. I know you want to make it benefit your campaign, but this is the case, and these are the boundaries. Do you think Trump is going to abide by that? Those are the 2 rules he's presented with. Abide by it or don't. Knowing Trump, he's going to violate it. They're probably going to hit him with it because they have the ability to. But knowing Trump, he's going to violate it. And then he's going to raise the issue of, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me? You going to throw me in jail? Well, guess what? I have Secret Service protection. What are you going to do about that? You're going to overturn Secret Service protection and violate federal law and elevate this to a federal crime? That way I can challenge you legally in federal court or, in a higher court and bring this up on a higher level. He's bringing in additional issues and additional legal challenges that I don't think they're ready to face, in other words. And by doing so, exposing the extra legal manner in which this case is being run. To an extent, it would be a bad idea, in my opinion, for them to try to put this, of course, gag order on him for that reason alone. That it will, first of all, make them look bad, and second of all, he's not going to follow it anyway, and by not following it, is actually going to probably use it against them. That's the very likely case as I see it, at least. Folks, before we go further, I want to talk about how Trump is actually using all of this politically. This is becoming a political issue no matter which side of the aisle you're on. Before we go deeper into that, though, folks, we do have a sponsor today. Today's episode is brought to you by peterdemos.org. And it says, what will you do when an unjust law or rule conflicts with your faith? We are watching attacks on our faith coming from both our government and many businesses, and if we don't know how to act, it may be too late. Unfortunately, many of us know we are to do what we are to do sometimes, but we don't know when the right time to do it is and how to do it. Are you ready for the days ahead? Peter Demos' new book on the duty of Christian civil disobedience helps us think about the seriousness, the risks, and the duty of Christians in responding to these unjust laws. Peter applies an unassailable biblical framework to the historical context of when civil disobedience is appropriate, to present a solid case on when Christians should stand down or rise up. You can purchase the book on the duty of Christian civil disobedience at peterdemos.org. That's peterdemos.org. And big thanks out to Peter Demos for sponsoring today's episode. All right, folks, let's go deeper into this. Now, the issue with all of this is, well, is this about politics? Well, Biden came out and, I think, as he often does, shot himself right in the foot because Biden often says that's the quiet part out loud. And Biden declared in front of the camera on video that they're basically not going to run. They don't want to let Trump run for president again. And this was essentially what Biden said. It's also coming out now that federal money was used in the investigation into Trump, meaning, well, this was in some ways involving federal money, at least. You could argue that a lot of law enforcement in New York uses federal money, and so this may not have been specifically delegated for this purpose. But regardless, this is looking very bad for Biden. And at the same time, too, it's looking very bad for even Trump's opponents, even DeSantis, because, of course, Trump is a Florida resident. DeSantis is the governor there. And if Trump is extradited, if he's forced out of his state, DeSantis, no matter how he positions himself, is going to take some of the blame for that. DeSantis initially was kind of defensive. He said he's going to stay out of it. And, of course, Trump criticized him. Trump technically attacked DeSantis first. DeSantis defended himself. DeSantis took a big hit from that, a lot of public criticism, and then changed his tone, saying that he's not going to cooperate with the federal investigators or whatever else, that his state, Florida, is not going to go along with it. And he also criticized the nature of George Soros' money going to attorney generals like Bragg, or district attorneys, DAs like Bragg. That being said, we see the effects of this in the polls, because people are wondering, well, is this helping Trump or is it hurting Trump? Is it making DeSantis do better than Trump or worse? The polls are in, folks, and even by pretty left-wing polls or left-leaning polls, frankly, it looks like Trump is benefiting bigly, to put it in his words, benefiting bigly from this. Let me show you. Yahoo News had this. It says, Trump surges to largest ever lead over DeSantis. It says a new Yahoo YouGov poll, one of the first conducted after former President Donald Trump was indicted Tuesday for his role in paying hush money to a porn star. It's mixed truth there as well. Shows Trump surging to his largest ever lead over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, his likely 2024 GOP primary challenger, as Republican voters rally around the only president in U.S. history to face criminal charges. In the previous Yahoo News/YouGov survey, which was conducted less than 2 weeks ago, Trump had 47% and DeSantis had 39% of Republican voters. So Trump was leading by 8 percentage points in a head-to-head matchup among registered voters who are Republicans or Republican-leaning independents. As recently as February, it was DeSantis who was narrowly ahead of Trump. And DeSantis was leading Trump 45% to 41%, meaning, wow, this investigation, this trial of Trump may have ensured that Trump has the Republican nomination. In other words, I think they've achieved the very thing they didn't want to happen, because DeSantis actually, depending on which polls you went by, right? Of course, there were different polls. They showed different things. No matter which one you went by, there was some degree of DeSantis being at least close to Trump. Again, the Yahoo News / YouGov poll showed DeSantis beating Trump, and then they decide to charge Trump, and the whole thing goes out the window. Trump is now leading DeSantis by quite a bit. It says, but now the new post-indictment poll, this is where it's at now, finds Trump lapping DeSantis by 26 percentage points. And so this bigly benefited Trump. 57% to 31% in a one-on-one contest. It says the former president even attracts majority support, 52% up from 44% previously, when pitted against a wider 10-candidate field of declared and potential GOP challengers, while DeSantis plummets to 21%, down from 28%. It says nobody else even cracks double digits. So if this was, in fact, meant to push Trump out as being the forerunner of the Republican Party, if this was meant to try to pressure Trump into running as an independent even, thereby splitting the Republican vote, if this was meant to make people want to distance themselves from Trump, it is all already backfired, and this is only the beginning. This is before the evidence is shown. This is before the trial goes on. Of course, we'll see which side it supports, given the history of this case and the fact that even DA Bragg previously wasn't going to hear it. And of course, his two prosecutors under him got very mad. One of them published a book based on the ongoing investigation, thereby technically blowing the entire case. It's bizarre they're even prosecuting it still, given the fact that DA Bragg's own prosecutor wrote a book on the ongoing investigation and blew the entire case, and then did a media tour, which alone would make this whole thing fruit of the poisonous tree under any normal circumstance. Despite all of that, despite the fact that Mueller and all these other people could not find evidence on any of this, I don't particularly believe they're going to show anything we didn't know already. They claim they do, but we will see. I do think that this is only going to benefit Trump even more going forward. That being said, let me show you this. GOP Republican Representative Moore is saying this: Trump indictment backfires in 2024. He says they can't cheat enough to win the next time around. And this is essentially what Trump is saying as well. This is the new form of election interference. This is the new way to rig elections. Don't try to beat them at the polls. Just throw your opponents in prison. That's what Trump says the Democrats are doing, and that's the way Trump is framing this case, and that's the way the public is going to be viewing this case as it goes forward, because that is now the political narrative. And interestingly, Republicans are rallying around Trump, even Republicans who don't normally like Trump, even his opponents, even people like, for example, Mike Pence, Trump's former vice president, who is now possibly running for 2024 as president, one of Trump's possible opponents, and someone who has come out very strongly against Trump is even rallying around Trump on this. DeSantis, I think this is why people are more kind of disappointed with him, at least not all of them, but some of them. DeSantis, ironically, has shown the least amount of support for Trump of his challengers. And so really, again, for a lot of the Republicans, this is ironically rallying them around Trump. Even House Speaker McCarthy, who was not really much of a Trump supporter, at least traditionally, historically, but has since looked like he's changed his line. Even he has come out very strongly supporting Trump, because this is now, whether you like it or not, whether they like it or not, this is becoming the main political issue for politics in America for the 2024 elections. Trump has defined the debate, and the debate is him being politically persecuted as he's framing it. Is that happening or is it not? This is the discussion we're having as a nation now. Now, let me go into this, though. Breitbart says Representative Barry Moore, Republican, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, says the decision by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to pursue the indictment of former President Donald Trump will have consequences for Democrats in the next election cycle. During an interview with Mobile AL Radio's FM Talk 106.5, Moore said the indictment had united Republicans and mobilized Americans. And based on what I've seen, I think this is an accurate statement. This is a very accurate statement. Even Republicans who I didn't think would support Trump, even based on Yahoo and YouGov polling data, this is the case. Even among the anti-Trump Republicans, this is the case. And even if you look at Trump's donations, this is the case. Trump has been raking in donations and volunteers by the thousands and donations by the millions since this was announced. But he says this. What's going to happen is this prosecutor has mobilized this red part of America, the flyover states and everyone else, to get behind this president. And I think it has united the party. We've had our disagreements within the party. Some may not be as conservative as some of us and some more moderate, but we are calling to fight for liberty. This mobilizes us to do that. I think it's going to make President Trump far more stronger now than he would have been had this not happened. I would strongly agree with that, in fact, looking from the outside in, because I can say that actually being at CPAC recently, I was one of the moderators at CPAC. Trump spoke at CPAC. The energy there was not really that high. The enthusiasm was very muted. And frankly, watching that had me wondering if Trump actually had a shot for 2024. The enthusiasm has been restored. The concern has been restored. And I think, fighting nature of Trump has been forced. Trump has been kind of pushed into the arena now. And while Trump was actually behaving in a way that was much more muted, actually, if you saw him speak recently, you'll know this, a lot more muted, a lot more somber, they've pushed him back into the arena. And you're going to be watching this now as the Trump you knew back in 2016. Ironically, I think if this was politically motivated, they've woken up the lion, so to speak. They've woken up the sleeping lion. But it says this as well. According to the Alabama federal lawmaker, the impact of the indictment on the electorate will put victory out of reach for Democrats. It says, whether it was Russia, they spied on Trump's campaign. Moore added, they went after General Mike Flynn. They went after Roger Stone. Then they accused him of something underhanded in Ukraine, Trump. They impeached the man twice. And then they went ahead and raided his house 91 days before an election. It just tells you, rather than focus on a crime, they're focusing on a man to find a crime. And that is concerning the American people. This backfires in November. They can't cheat enough to win next time around. And he's talking to the guy. And says on Friday afternoon, Moore handed out ham sandwiches at his Capitol Hill office to play off a former New York Court of Appeals judge Sol Watchler's quote that district attorneys could get grand juries to indict a ham sandwich. And DA Bragg is looking like he's indicting the big old ham sandwich itself. Now, could his statement, the Democrats can't cheat enough, I'm going to go into that, but let's jump over to Epoch TV for that. So let's leave YouTube quickly for this part of the discussion. Folks, come join us on Epoch TV. I want to go deeper into this. I want to talk about some of the hypocrisy around this, some of the real arguments taking place on this, the issue of election fraud and whether it's enough to win them the election, and how Trump is actually, ironically, using their own tools against them now. And frankly, I think this is an accurate statement. They cannot cheat enough next time around because Trump is actually subverting that process. I'll explain. Folks, come join us on Epoch TV. Before we jump over, though, we now have, of course, DVDs for sale. Of course, January 6th DVD is for sale. Also, we have a new documentary in the works called Eat the Bugs. Roman Balmakov, my colleague, is currently getting donations to finish that one up. Let me show you a trailer of this, and then we'll jump over to Epoch TV exclusively.
For the past 6 months or so, my team and I have been working on a full-length documentary project. It's called Eat the Bugs, and it exposes a topic that I believe is incredibly important to everyone: the global war on farmers and the, you can say, secret agenda that's behind it, that secret agenda that's pushing it forward. Now, as many of you know, this all started when my team and I traveled to the Netherlands last year in order to cover the protests that were happening there. And after meeting with the local farmers and hearing their stories about how they were going to quite literally lose their generational farms, we were shocked, to say the least. But what we realized soon, as we dug deeper into the story, it became obvious that this was not confined to simply the Netherlands. In fact, this war on farmers, this global war on farmers, was indeed happening everywhere, including right here in the US. And for some odd reason, it coincided with this trend of celebrities promoting edible insects. And so we have been traveling for the better part of the last year on a mission to really understand this global war on farmers, the agenda behind it, what it means for the future of the food in our supermarkets, as well as what the common people like you and me who are caught up in all this can actually do about it. And right now, we're putting together all the interviews and all the findings from our journey into this new awesome documentary called Eat the Bugs. I really cannot wait to share it with you. And if you would like to help back this project, to help us with the funding, to finish editing the thing, as well as to get it out to as many people across the entire world as possible, well, that would be absolutely awesome. You can go to epicoriginal.com/eatthebugs, or you can just click on that link in the description box below, and there you can sign up for updates, you can share the project with your friends and family, and you can donate some funding so that we can share the powerful voices of all these farmers from across the entire world. Let's make it happen.
Again, folks, that is the new documentary we're working on called Eat the Bugs. And again, if you want to donate to it, help us get it finished, you saw the link. And interestingly, I should note, Joe Biden himself is now saying there's going to be a global food crisis. So maybe I want to do an episode on that later, but I'll probably work it in depending on how things go with the news cycle with Trump getting arrested. But Joe Biden said that just the other day. There's going to be a global food crisis, which raises some big questions on why they're like shutting down farms in the Netherlands. He's blaming this, of course, on Russia and Ukraine, saying Ukraine is one of the breadbaskets of the world. Yeah, why are they restricting fertilizers if there's going to be a food crisis? They're doing that now in the U.S., by the way, Tyson Foods. Why are they, for example, culling chickens? Why are they burning, no, maybe not intentionally, but why do we have all these fires? And are they replacing these facilities, these food processing facilities, when they burn down? Why are they shutting down farms in the Netherlands using these really backhanded, underhanded policies? Roman's documentary is very well timed, exposing all of these things. So, again, let's get it out, folks. If you want to donate to it, again, you saw the link. That says jump over to Epoch TV exclusively, and we'll talk about the things we can't talk about on YouTube. So come join us there. I'll see you in a bit, folks. And thank you all for being here. Yeah,